So let's talk about the topography of Mars. So let's talk about it. Welcome to Mars Week, day two. I'm your host, Chris. Today we're talking about Mars, the topography. Mars is just like the Earth. It has chasms, it has canyons, craters, it has mountain ranges as high above the heavens, where Olympus Mons takes the crown as the highest point in our solar system, where it even dwarfs Mount Everest. Imagine placing Mount Everest against Olympus Mons. Just how much of an elevation difference that is. It makes Everest look puny in size compared to Olympus Mons. But here's one thing that it's very underrated, not a lot of people talk about Mars. Well, if you look at its northern hemisphere compared to its southern hemisphere, there's a very striking resemblance due to its altitude and elevation. So imagine if you stand right in the middle of the North Pole and you walk directly south. And immediately you start gaining in elevation very rapidly as you approach the South Pole, where the South Pole has treacherous mountains and high ranges where it's so heavily elevated. And you're just walking, and before you were just walking through just a very rugged, very flat area. Well, this is due to what we call the Borealis Basin. This basin pretty much covers a third of Mars, takes up most of its northern hemisphere. And this is so big where, in fact, we can fit the entirety of the United States with room to spare. And this was like photographed in 2008 with this colored coded image satellite of Mars as they were mapping it. And you can see in the blues where it shows very low elevation, where in compared with greens and reds and yellows, where it shows higher elevation. But where did that all happen? Well, studies suggest that very, very early on. So let's jump all the way back 4 billion years ago. Mars, with the other planets, had their own collision courses. During the time, 4 billion years ago, this was the late heavy bombardment period, where solar system was erupting in chaos, where Mars was a unlucky hit. Mars was struck by a Pluto-sized object that slammed and skimmed off its northern hemisphere, creating what we know as this basin. Compared to its southern hemisphere, never got touched. Its northern hemisphere was touched due to the high angle and the high trajectory of this Pluto-sized object that slammed right into Mars. And yeah, this is what created the Borealis Basin that not a lot of people talk about. And if you look at Mars right now, you can say, oh, Mars is perfectly round and, there's not really much of the features you can really see until you start stepping on Mars and you start walking. You see how treacherous the elevation gain you are going through as you're walking from the North Pole to the South Pole, and just really see how different it really is. Because you're going through the Borealis Basin where it's so flat, and then you see the Southern Hemisphere where it's so elevated, it's so treacherous. So, pretty much, that's the whole history of what happened, why Mars has this Borealis Basin. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on to this journey of Mars Week, day two. We're talking about Mars topography. And without further ado, keep exploring, everybody. I'll see you for part three or day three of Mars Week.